Well, hello, free people of the Rocky Mountain region. This is Brandon from Free State, Colorado, and I hope you're doing well. Well, if you've turned on the news or looked at social media these past few days, you couldn't help but see these rallies, these protests, these things that have turned into riots down in Los Angeles. I mean, crime, property destruction, people getting arrested, even a National Guard deployment. It's not good stuff. Of course, a lot of us are wondering, what does this mean for Colorado? Is the Denver metro area going to see this kind of violence and property destruction? Really hope not. But there are some radical far left Democrats in our state government who are fanning the flames, who are taking advantage of this opportunity to promote their own political career and, of course, lash out against President Trump. So, this is just from the Denver Post just recently. State labor union lawmakers blast Governor Jared Polis over ICE subpoena, decry immigration crackdowns. So, of course, links at Free State Colorado as always. You can see here this is Senator Julie Gonzalez, one of the most radical legislators we have. She was one of the sponsors of Senate Bill 3, this authoritarian gun grab. Anything bad down there, Julie Gonzalez is probably associated with it. We see some other legislators here as well with these union people. I mean, this is just on June 9th, so very, very recent. But check out these signs in the background. I think that's one of the bigger themes here that maybe the local news media isn't talking about quite enough. Scrolling down this article here, you can see a better picture of these signs. So you may have seen that these are the same signs we saw in Colorado Springs, we saw in Los Angeles, we're seeing across the country because this is a coordinated, nationally organized protest. These rallies are designed to promote a specific political agenda and, of course, destabilize things to try and create some change. And it's radical, and there's not really an organic homegrown movement associated with it here in Colorado. A lot of it is pushed on us by these nonprofits and these bad actors. So you can see these signs here. You can see where they come from. You'll recognize those if you start digging around on social media. And I got to say, like I was saying, a lot of these people on the far left here in Colorado are really fanning the flames. I don't know if you've heard of this guy up at who runs the Real Vale. So, of course, Vale's this ritzy, far left community of really wealthy people. There's this guy named David O. Williams, and he's about as radical as it gets. But you got to read what he has to say because this gives you some insight into why these people are going so crazy. So, of course, this is about Trump, but check this out. This is just from a very recent article here from June 8th. What's far more alarming is the second step in Trump's Project 2025 plan to declare martial law across the United States by fanning the flames of unrest through executive mass deportation overreach, roiling and ripping apart peaceful working class communities across the U.S. The next step will be Trump's invocation of the Insurrection Act at the behest of his chief fascism advisor, Stephen Miller. Now, Trump's scandal plagued Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is threatening to send active duty U.S. Marines into LA on top of California National Guard troops, all over the objections of the rightfully elected governor. California is firing back in court alleging illegality. So, when you start really reading what these people are saying, start understanding what they're thinking, I mean, they really believe this stuff. And this guy is not like a nobody, this David O. Williams, very connected to a lot of the Democratic establishment here in Colorado. This is kind of where their mindset is at. So, yeah, they're willing to do crazy things, and it's not necessarily good. Here's our state representative, Lorena Garcia, card carrying member of the Democratic Socialists of America, gun grabber extraordinaire, and total authoritarian who wants to control every aspect of your life. Thank you, Colorado Duke, for posting this. But yeah, ICE is made up of criminal cowards. And this is a sitting lawmaker, folks. These are the people in our state government. This is just from June 7th. Now, Progress Now is a group I've talked about plenty of times. They are the center of this blueprint model. They are one of the octopuses that really has their tentacles stretched out into so much across Colorado. And they're pushing this. They're pushing this whole No Kings Denver protest, mass protest. They're letting all their people know. Of course, Ian Silveri, some of these other people heavily involved in the Democratic Party are all associated with Progress Now, including some people over at Nine News. So it's not really too surprising to see them kind of beating this war drum, if you will. Now here's from Colorado Springs. Now it's a little bit hard to see. Thank you, Josh Salem, for posting this. A little hard to see there, but you can kind of see that those signs are the same signs we've seen up in Denver. You can kind of make them out there, but some of the same signs. Now, this is a very mediocre rally, thankfully, in Colorado Springs, not a huge rally and protest down there. Colorado Springs has long been seen as this bastion of conservatism in our state, and so good to see that it hasn't gotten too out of control yet. But really, who's pushing this stuff? I mean, that's what you got to ask yourself, that who's connected to all of this. So this is the Colorado Springs Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression. Those are the people who are able to get those 20 people out there. But, stand with Los Angeles. And you'll notice a lot of these graphics from across the country are so similar because this is a coordinated and organized effort. Now, just checking in with Brandy Bradley down at the state capitol. She's got this text message here about being the state patrol. This is on June 9th. Just saying, hey, we're locking the doors because of this. If you need to leave, get somebody to leave with. There's protest activity. And state patrols on high alert. I mean, this is not what we want in our communities, of course, folks. Then you have the Denver PSL, which is the Party of Socialism and Liberation. Now, that's a lot of the same people who are running the Los Angeles protests, who are really getting those organizations going. So from LA to Denver, ICE out. This is that June 10th, so very, very recent here, pushed out by these radicals. But you can see it's coordinated. It's really this effective way for these organizations to really work together to push this radical message. Here's Antifa International. Now, this is Friday, June 6th. This was really the start of the LA riots, the protests that turned into the riots. So Antifa, one of the first groups out there that I was able to find, at least, out there pushing this, protesting it. And of course, these are a lot of the people who are a little bit more violent than some of the other protesters. So these people are lurking in our communities, folks, and it's something to really pay attention to. The BBC had this really interesting article, mostly because of the imagery, of course, and that's really, I mean, you almost can't help but think this is scripted. Just the imagery of the Mexican flag, the burning cars, the smoke, the masks. I mean, really, really put together, just totally camera friendly to see it all. But you can kind of see some of these signs in the background, but it's those same signs that were in Denver. In Denver. So of course, you have Trump deploying the National Guard, and Jared Polis, one of the, guys fighting back against Trump, is among the Democratic governors signing this statement calling President Trump's actions an alarming abuse of power. So he doesn't like the idea that these rioters, these protesters, these violent criminals are being held accountable and being stopped. It's wild, folks. Well, you may have heard of this group as well. This is something I really want you to be aware of, is Indivisible. Now, Indivisible has been around a long time, back in 2016 when Trump first took office, but they are so connected and so well funded. They have so much money, which we'll look at here in a second. This is one of their newsletters that they send out, and it really hypes up their people and gets them excited to go out there and protest, to rally. They talk about Musk ransacking the government, open defiance of court orders, attacks on law firms. I mean, they really have this marketing scheme to really fire people up and going over what's happened down in Los Angeles and, of course, pushing it across the country. When the fascists crack down on small scale nonviolent protest, we need large scale nonviolent protest. So here's where the good news come in. When we here at Indivisible heard Trump was planning a birthday military parade, we got to work on No King's Day counter programming. So they're organizing everywhere else. They're one of the big groups really behind this No King's Day, which we'll see here on Saturday. But of course, this guy's on the news with Rachel Maddow. I mean, these people have thousands of people across the country really tied into their group. So you really have to understand that this is one of the biggest organizations out there. This is over at influencewatch.org, talking about this 501c4. I mean, in 2022, $11 million in revenue, nearly $12 million, $11.5 million in expenses, $7 million in assets. Just being an activist group that's been around for less than 10 years. I mean, they are definitely the kind of the more mainstream Antifa, if you will. But they do a lot of stuff there. You can read all of this. I'll link it all. It's really important to be informed, I would think. But of course, they're associated with Democracy Alliance, which the Colorado Democracy Alliance, that's part of the whole blueprint model, excuse me. And then what I really think is interesting is the finances. So you got to look where the money's coming from, folks. So one of the big funders of Indivisible is Reid Hoffman. He's the founder of LinkedIn, also the biggest donor to Michael Johnston, the Denver mayor. So if you really want to understand who's behind the scenes, kind of lining the pockets of these groups and paying for these protesters to get out there and organizing it and paying for the signs, it's people like Reid Hoffman from LinkedIn. And of course, it also is from George Soros's Open Society Foundations. People laugh when you mention George Soros because it sounds so conspiratorial, but I mean, it's real, folks. This is 2023, Indivisible receiving over $8 million from George Soros's Open Society Foundations and its sister organizations. In 2021, the Open Society Policy Center gave Indivisible $875,000 and $1.35 million in 2022. Wow. It's a lot of money, folks. $3 million. I mean, when they have $11 million in revenue and Third of it's coming from George Soros. I think that's really interesting. Then you got another third coming from Tides Nexus. If you guys haven't heard of the Tides Foundation, they're definitely one of these big players behind the scenes. Mentioned them previously before in some other videos, but they're definitely funneling money into Colorado to be used on political campaigns and for political groups. So very important stuff to pay attention to. Even though these big organizations aren't necessarily based in Colorado, they still work in our politics. So you can check that out and really look at it. But very fascinating stuff to see all the money coming in there and who's it coming from. But of course, we have this radical group called Indivisible out there pushing this radical agenda. And who's one of their biggest fans? Who shows up at all their events proudly, even from the Colorado Attorney General posts on X to the Phil Weiser posts? You see Phil Weiser there. A great day that started in Colorado Black Roundtable in Denver, ended in Durango at an Indivisible event and the Durango Wine Experience. So people talk about how blue Durango is. Well, Indivisible is definitely a reason for that. They're a very powerful, strong organization is probably a better word down there. Here you go with the Colorado Attorney General. Thank you, Colorado Springs Indivisible. Now, this is from his Attorney General account. This is like the official one here. For the warm reception and strong civic engagement last week at their town hall, AG Phil Weiser spoke and took audience questions about what he's doing to fight illegal actions by the Trump administration and defend the rule of law. There they are in a church, of course, clapping gladly for this guy who wants to strip us of our rights, control our lives, and be the next governor of Colorado. Scary stuff, folks. Here's Phil Weiser again with Meg Froglips there and Jesse Danielson, some of the radical legislators down at this rally earlier this year. But if you read the caption here, together, let's see, 5,000 people at the Indivisible Colorado Hands Off rally. So Indivisible is one of these groups that Phil Weiser is very well connected with, at least a big supporter of, it seems, by showing up to their events and proudly proclaiming about it, down there protesting, fighting back. And we'll see where this goes, folks. But I just want to explore some of those interesting connections, really kind of provide some depth and insight into who's behind some of these rallies, who's connected to it, and why you should be paying attention. So, really appreciate you. Take care. We'll see you next time.